It seems like after every long weekend, the day we come back, we're starting to see a jolt of volatility enter right back into the marketplace. Today was no different. Today, I think the best way to try and measure that volatility is using our Stock Volatility Box live scanner. Using that live scanner, we had a total of 155 trades that breached our volatility zones. That means 155 different places where we had more volatility than we're typically used to seeing, and volatility that you can use to day trade or swing trade based off of what you're looking at. Now, today in particular, the thing that I thought was interesting is the type of names that we saw on our live scanner. A lot of them were liquid, well-known names. If I scroll through here, out of the 155, you had things like Sienna, you had DocuSign, you had Foot Locker, Kellogg, Las Vegas Sands, a lot of well-known names, even new IPOs, Bumble, Chegg, which is not an IPO, but Chegg, another company, T-Mobile. Keep coming down. You also had some ETFs like the real estate ETF, XLRE, XLP. You had Yum Foods, which is one that we'll talk about in today's video. Match, Upstart, another newer stock. You also had Mattel, which has a nice swing trade setup currently active for our Volatility Box members. You can check out the squeeze tools, but this was a great opportunity to use intraday volatility to take advantage of that. Big Five, another example of a stock that I think a lot of folks are looking at. You also had ETFs like gold, XLP, XLRE, which we already talked about, XLP right here. So a lot of different names, Triple M. In today's video, what we're going to do is pick a few of them and actually look at the charts, try and understand the volatility. Now, usually what we do is we focus more on the trade setups here. Today is going to be less about the trade setups, much more about just understanding the volatility that we saw. So my goal is to try and cycle through as many charts as I can here, spending less time giving commentary on each chart, and instead today trying to maximize for the number of stocks that we can take a look at. So if we come in here, let's come to our charts. We can start with XLRE first. And I'll point out the different breaches first. And so in XLRE, we had our first breach early in the morning. This is 7 to 8. Beginning of that hour, we also saw volatility in the futures markets at that point. Hit our T1 line. Then we went a little above it. Price reversed. Had a second retest right here, which is the ultimate one. That was a nicer move. So XLRE gives you an idea of the volatility that we saw, along with the double bounce, the double bottom. XLP. Another stock that we saw, XLP, was just a touch, right? Unlike XLRE, where we went a little bit deeper inside of our clouds, XLP was just this wick right here. That's when it appeared on our live scanner. Quickly hit T1, reversed just a little bit, but this time just to our target line instead of all the way into our clouds. So the difference there between XLRE and XLP, a little bit more selling inside of XLRE. Now, if we move on to something like gold as well, gold, we never actually had our setup trigger using the edge signal confirmation, but you'll notice the volatility inside of gold much greater than XLRE or XLP. So gold was the market where we had a lot of volatility early on in the morning. We had a sell-off to begin. We breached our aggressive volatility box clouds, broke outside of that before seeing our edge signal confirmation. And we were then looking for the second cloud right here to get breached, which is our conservative, which didn't happen. So you saw gold really trade inside of this range for really the better part of the day here, inside of that aggressive volatility box along with the conservative volatility box range. So those are some ETFs. Now if we switch over to some stocks, let's start with DocuSign first. I know that was one that we talked about. DocuSign, we had breach our volatility box zone right here. And here we just continue to see more volatility taking us outside of the clouds as well. So we breached our aggressive clouds and into the close here, breached even our conservative clouds. So a good deal of selling activity inside of DocuSign, especially after the previous day in which we had breached our aggressive clouds to close Friday's activity. So complete reversal in DocuSign. Let's see what happens here. But a move away would be something that I think makes a lot of sense. And for those of you looking to try and capture more swing trade sort of move, this right here is your opportunity to do so. Starting to scale into a position with the aggressive clouds and then switching over to the conservative clouds. So that's DocuSign. If we switch over next, let's try and go to something in the XLP sector. So let's go to Coke first. Coke, we saw much greater volatility than the XLP counterpart here. Coke, in the morning, we breached our aggressive clouds, had the edge signal, had our actual setup, hit our first target, price then reversed, hit our conservative cloud, and the conservative one broke where we just saw really more selling come into the marketplace here before ultimately reversing. If you contrast this with Pepsi, Pepsi was also on our Stock Volatility Box live scanner, so you had a nice pair trade there. Next, we can go on to JCI here. JCI, we had breach our volatility box clouds, along with give you the edge signal, hit our first target, came right back into our clouds, chopped around, went a little bit outside, and then we had a nice rally for much of the day before a little bit of a puke into the close. So JCI, another stock in which we had more volatility than usual, breaching our aggressive clouds. Next, we can go to something like Netflix. Netflix, we had more volatility, but this time to the upside. The first clouds that we breached, our aggressive clouds, went right through it before seeing any sort of edge signal confirmation, this time taking us into our conservative clouds. You'll notice really just a wick touch here before price action in Netflix just started to sell off, taking us closer to that 1272 extension. And this also gave for a fairly nice overlap using Fibonacci along with the volatility box clouds to try and use that as a magnet line. So another example there inside of Netflix. So far we've talked about a few ETFs. We've talked about Netflix, Coke, JCI. We can also talk about Big Five, which was another stock that breached our volatility box. This time we had both the aggressive and the conservative breach. The aggressive breached right here. We then hit our first target, then reversed, hit our conservative, and the conservative you'll see just had really buyers coming right back in to buy this level. Inside of Big Five off of the conservative, that was an entry price of 29.29 right here, and closing price 30.63. So it gives you an idea of how you can really start to understand this volatility whenever it takes place, know exactly all the different stocks, ETFs, whatever you like to trade, where we have opportunities setting up, and then pick and choose the stocks that I think fit your trading style, that fit your trading plan, and that fit whatever asset class you'd like to trade as well. If you trade options, some of these stocks won't necessarily fit your list, but today in particular, a lot of liquid stocks where regardless of if you used options, underlying, whatever it was, you had a breach that was there for you for the taking, which you could then try and participate in using our fade trades. For all of our Stock Volatility Box members, you can see a full list of the 155 places on the Stock Volatility Box Live Scanner page, and pick and choose whichever markets you might be interested in, study the markets, understand the volatility, and then be prepared for the rest of this week, especially if we see the same volatility continue into Friday. All right, take care everyone. Good luck trading. Hope this video helped, and we'll see you in the next update.